And I am Bscrim.
And through this video reporting, we are going to discuss how to factor your personality into your decision making. As much logic as you bring in your choices, the way you make a choice will always affect your personality. Individual personality is an unavoidable consideration combined with maturity and experience, but constructive self-awareness can help you weigh how much your intuition impacts your decision-making process.
So now, let's proceed on how your brain makes decisions. Decision making is multiply determined, meaning that there are multiple forces at work simultaneously. Your personality, characteristics, and influence blend with your beliefs, your desires, and your inspirations as you navigate the decision-making process every day. You're starting from whether you're rationally or emotionally, impulsively or spontaneously or deliberately approach decisions.
Any of us make decisions about following a certain internal norm, ethics or meaning. Others make choices to minimize anxiety or increase self-esteem and or the likelihood of closeness or distance from others. For those strongly motivated by pleasure-seeking and immediate gratification, decision-making is frequently deficient and logical thought, is instead impulsive instead.
Personality tests provide a self-discovery process involving very useful application. The more you are conscious of yourself, the more spontaneously your opportunities, preferences, and perceptions increase. Not only does self-awareness unblock us, but it also opens up possibilities that would otherwise remain unconscious or unknown.
Being aware of what we need as individuals takes us out of marking ourselves as good or poor, and helps us to consider what we need for our highest functioning level. It may be direction, structure, space, flexibility, relation, humor, all depending on personality understanding. Knowing what's important, how we learn best, what and how are most aligned with our personalities makes informed choices that can improve our quality of life.
Let's proceed to the cultural influences in decision making. Decision making is a mental process that is an important part of preparing and taking action in a variety of ways and at a wide range of levels, including through not limited to budget preparation, educational preparing, policy making, and career building. Such events include people all over the world. The underlying cross-cultural disparities in decision making can be a major contributing factor in the cross-cultural communication, negotiation, and conflict resolution performance.
Decision-making models. Based on the perspective the researcher takes on the role that culture plays in decision-making. One of the following models is used to think about and forecast behavioral trends in decision-making in a given community.
First decision-making models is the universal model. Typically, the scientists who use this model believe there is only small difference in how people from different cultures makes their choice. The findings obtained from one party are usually related to humans.
The second decision-making models is the dispositional model. The adherents of the dispositional view recognize that decision-making differences are cross-cultural and support cause of cross-cultural study. They assume that the variation found in the studies reflect the only presence of cultural inclinations in individuals' minds and are expected to appear in all situations and situational contexts.
The last and the third decision-making model is the dynamic model. Adherents of this view often consider cross-cultural variations. They view cultural knowledge not as a monolithic construct that is continuously present, but as a collection of discrete knowledge that is operational as a function of the situation. We also promote the development and the testing of complex models reflecting the processes by which culture influences decision makers. Now, the effect of culture and decision making. The culturally normative communication style also enhances people's responsiveness responsiveness to the transmitted message that influences the perception of the communicator. It influences hiring decisions. HR agents are more likely to recruit direct, assertive, and even aggressive applicants in cultures of low background, whereas the reverse trend is found in cultures of high background.
Let's proceed to the conditions of accelerating or handling the science of cross-cultural differences in decision making. Number 1. Priming. The automatic cognition literature indicates behavior is influenced by exposure to elements of the social environment in a manner that occurs without consciousness or purpose. We know from the common schematic representations of a certain society the stereotype behaviors that later affect our decisions. When a person is prepared with a definition, often through an implied order to think about it, it stimulates all forms of relevant knowledge and affects decision taking.
Number 2. Time pressure. Cultural and personal information is accessible to all through cultures. Cultural knowledge appears to represent a broad sampling of the events in life, whereas personal knowledge is more based on individual or atypical experience. The others difference between their accessibility is the cultural and personal awareness. Cultural community participants are prepared day after day with collections of values, behaviors, and behavioral habits that contribute to building up and storing cultural awareness. Cultural awareness is therefore very available even under heavy cognitive load of work. Personal awareness is a record of the particular event and is not replicated in too many ways. That this is why a concerted attempt is required to assess it, which takes more time and effort.
Number 3. Peer pressure. Individuals in collectivist society are less likely to behave when they do not encounter social pressure according to their cultural values. According to what collectivist culture dictates, Japanese and Chinese students are more likely to decide compared to American and Italian students whether they will eat and fast subject to the norms adopted in their societies and less likely to make choices dependent on their personal attitudes. This peculiarity, however, is much more salient when they make plans for eating with their friends and less salient when they decide to eat alone in a fast food restaurant. The probability that they will behave based on their attitudes increases dramatically according to the above situation.
The pressure to provide reasons for the decision. When individuals need to offer reason for their decision, cultural awareness is recruited. The need to include explanations evokes an information processing approach focused on top-down application of rules and standards, rather than bottom-up processing based on personal experience. This can be clarified with the aid of this supposition that when asked to offer reasons, individuals feel the need to adapt because they do not want to be the outsiders. They feel more able to rely on their own experience when they are not asked to justify their choices.
The individual tolerance for cognitive ambiguity. Widespread common cultural awareness offers a validated context for individuals to view potentially ambiguous interactions, providing their followers with a sense of epistemic protection and protecting against ambiguity and unpredictability. The degree to which persons of all cultures need firm answers varies. It is found that the people with high tolerance for ambiguity are less likely to act with the consent of their society.
And now, the universal effects of situational demands and decision goal selection across cultures. Culture shapes the prevalence of culture factors, nature of decisions, motivation for decisions, rule or case based on decision making, as they are far more open and require less cognitive growth, whereas calculation based would be less frequent in both orientations for relationship